Hello, welcome to the weekly wind-up with myself, Emma Kirk. Today my guest is the infamous Earl Crabtree, a legend of the modern rugby league game. Hello.
Hello.
Mental health in the modern game is kind of being highlighted at the minute by charities and people being encouraged to talk, and the players. Did you notice anything did you struggle in your time when you were playing, maybe through injury or something like that?
I think as a rugby player you have to acknowledge now especially that this is becoming an issue, and in the past I think it's something that people didn't talk about. Now in rugby league I think we have had the issue that we perceived as being tough blokes, and it's a stereotype which needs to disappear, and there's a lot of players that have come through now and they do have issues. They have issues as in the sense that we're all a little bit different, including myself, and I've been through a few problems in the past, whether it be down to selection, down to injuries, and you need to talk about these things, and in the past it wasn't the done thing, but now it's becoming more the done thing, and hopefully we'll get a few people getting those things off the chest.
And did you notice that with your peers as well, when you were kind of struggling? Did you notice other people were struggling around you, or did you just feel quite isolated?
No, you knew that people were struggling. It just wasn't something that anyone accepted. And as I grew up in the back end of the old school era, we got treated in a different way. It's not like today, it's a total different game. I got treated like dirt by a lot of the older players at the time, and sometimes the coaching staff as well. But this was part of the mentality of toughening a player up. That has totally changed. It's gone out the window now, and they actually do put a little bit more thought into how people are taught to, and I think that's a massive part of the future of sports in general, not just rugby league. But now it's not as acceptable, it's not socially acceptable to treat people like that. So that's one thing, but the other side is the mental side of it now, where people do go through these problems, and they have people to speak to now. They have these channels they can go down to make sure that they actually sort these issues out the best they can.
And is that from integrally within the club, or is that external?
Every club now has to have a player welfare officer. Now they look after all the players, and at our club we've been very lucky to have a player welfare called Andy Jordan, who's now moved on, actually, funnily enough, to Man United, which is a nice little step up for himself. So someone will be taking over from him, and he was absolutely brilliant. He made sure that all the lads were well catered for, and to make sure that if they had any issues, any questions about anything, even education, any problems that they needed to talk about, he was the person they went to. And there's also different things in place now with the RFL, Rugby League Cares and Sporting Chance, where if anybody does have any other problems, there's a way of being able to deal with it or speak about it. Okay,
so bearing in mind that you didn't have those facilities, how did you cope? What mechanisms did you have?
The mechanisms that I personally had were things that weren't really in place, and it wasn't about talking to my parents or anything like that, or my friends. I just dealt with it. And when I say I just dealt with it, I toughed it out. And I don't think that's the ideal way of dealing with things, because I think it did affect me over time, but I didn't actually realise it until I've got older and looked back on it. And I went through some tough periods where I just wanted to quit rugby. I didn't want to be a part of it anymore. I hated what it was about, or I hated the way I was spoke to, and some of the things that I'll never ever forget. But in a way I've learned from those. It's an experience that I won't forget, but I've learned how to deal with those situations in the future, and also if I see them happening as well, which for me is a massive part of it. I was probably a lucky person in the sense that I managed to get through the other side, and I'm quite happy with how I dealt with things in my own way. But at the same time I look back and wish there was a different way. I wish I'd been able to speak to someone about it and have an understanding. But like I say, when I was growing up and coming through those junior ranks, that just wasn't the done thing.
So if you had somebody who was maybe just starting out their career, would you make that as a suggestion, you know, talk to somebody and find somebody from the very start that you can open up to?
I think the important thing is to be able to talk to somebody that you trust. It isn't always about talking to your parents and friends. It's the right person you need to speak to, because everyone's got their own opinion on matters, and sometimes it's not those opinions that you want to hear about. It's not those opinions, what they've got, that you think is the right thing. You need to be able to talk to somebody, and they need to be able to listen. So if you've got that, then I think that's the biggest part of it. Now this is what we've tried to do in rugby league, is to put these things in place now that you can do this, and there's those opportunities, but the first thing is to really stand up and realise that you may have some things you want to talk about, and being able to put your foot forward and actually saying, right, I'm here and I want to talk about it.
Yeah, admitting it to yourself, I think, is maybe the first step, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so, and that's sometimes the difficult part of it. As soon as you admit it to yourself and realise that you may not have a severe issue and a severe problem, but if you start to have these negative thoughts, these demons in your head, sometimes it is ideal to get it off your chest. And sometimes I think we talk about people just gossiping. That's a massive, a massive word is gossiping, and sometimes we gossip between our friends, and I don't see it as sort of like gossiping or just either slagging people off or anything like that. It's actually venting, and venting is really, really important to actually relieve you of the stress that is we're dealing with these problems that you may have. And everyone needs to vent at some point, but sometimes it's about venting in a different way and being able to talk about your own problems to the right people.
Did you employ any of those strategies when you were changing from player to pundit?
I think I learnt a lot over the years, and becoming a pundit and doing my work with the BBC and over the radio actually just made me more confident. I was able to talk to people, react under difficult situations and be put in positions that I wasn't used to. And for me, it got me out of that comfort zone and put me in a total different comfort zone. Being able to talk to people is something I've always been pretty good at. But when I was growing up, I didn't. And one of the things I turned down, I had an opportunity to be on Sky TV, flown down to London to be on Boots and All, which for me was a massive thing. And it was paid work as well. I was only about 21. I turned it down because I was scared. And I look back on that, and it was one of those moments in my life, and we all have them, and it was one of those turning points in my life and my career where I thought, I'm never turning anything like that down again. And from then on, I did absolutely everything, and I'm glad I did, because I got some opportunities then. I got some opportunities to work with BBC. I worked at the World Cup final in the middle of the pitch, walking through the Kiwi team and talking about individual players. My own cameraman mic'd up, and it was the best experience in punditry that I've ever had in front of, I think about 78,000 people.
Oh, just a few.
At the actual ground, and about 2.2 million watching the TV. And when I thought back at that, I thought, you know what, I've done that, I can do anything.
Yeah. And I'm sure you'll have plenty more opportunities as well.
I hope so. That's what it's all about now.
Perhaps even a hair care product.
Or several. I might need them, actually.
Do you have any particular regime for your hair care, just in case people are watching?
Yeah. Obviously, it's so naturally shiny and beautiful, never ever greasy. It's wash it at least once a week now. I don't really have any. I don't really have any procedures that would mean that I actually make sure I keep it in best check. It just does what it wants, and I kind of leave it at that. I've still got that rugby bloke reputation to withhold.
Of course, yeah. Thank you so much for coming and talking to us today. Remember, we can be contacted by the usual means to discuss this or any other topic. I'm Emma Kirk. Goodbye for now.